Behind the Mahatma Gandhi, there was a Kasturba Gandhi. Nobody talks about her because we don't recognize them. But I think as Christians, we should be the ones recognizing those who are posturing as servants to serve. Those are the leaders. We'll miss them if they're not there. Think about it. We won't have direction. These are people who have shaped our lives for the good or bad. So behind Hitler was also a mother who was tormented. So the first thing I want to say is, within us, if you are alive and you have pulse, you have potential. This is God. God has placed potential, fearfully and wonderfully made. You supervise my formation in the mother's womb, is what David said. I don't know how he knew that, to write that. That's where he began. We begin in God. And then there is a time, as Erickson says, where when we depart from being immersed in God, as we face the first conflict that he says is with trust and mistrust. Will the mother come when I cry? And the mother came. And then when I was wet, the mother came again. And when I was hungry, mother came again. This is how we learn to trust this world. But imagine if the mother did not come to that child and picked up and gave food. That child will struggle with mistrust all the days of his or her life. We have known people like that. So the first thing I want to say is, culturally, we are so... Trauma is, I think I can safely say, Lisa can correct me, that trauma is based on relationship and relational breakdowns. We get hurt, we get rejected, we get wounded. And so that is so important to those of you who are going to be mothers to be, to welcome the child in the womb. Not even a thought that should say, why you came now? Because there is proof that is transmitted to the child, the feelings of rejection. So we are shaped, and the moment we begin to step into the world, there are hurts, there are bullies, there are people who don't like us because they're looking at our color or whatever, ethnicity, and then they begin to, even if they don't say, they begin to show us that they don't either dismiss you, you're not there. I've faced many times, you're not there in the room. Especially when you go overseas, as in Australia is where I recognize that first. You're not just there. And then somebody calls you a name. It's hurtful, but that, I think, was a trigger to the many hurts before that. So we are culturally shaped and formed in trauma. And if you can accept that, I think there's going to be some steps forward. That our families have shaped us. And our local culture, the extended families have shaped us. And sometimes we have experienced bullying, abuse, neglect, which is often not considered. What she calls it as complex trauma. Culture has imposed upon us a bombing, food scarcity, a flood, a tsunami, and then war. These are all things that have shaped us. But today you can go, after the 2 days, we don't have a certificate to give you, but you can go a little bit more informed. Okay, we have been informed about trauma. So it's educational. But I think most importantly, what is important is we who are aware, we who claim to live in Christ, must have a better experience than being informed in our mind and walking around, because that actually can puff us up. It's not helpful. What is really going to be helpful is when you begin to mitigate the pain, when you have God to bring healing and cleansing to the wounds, one day we'll be healed. So every day I go before God and say, God, clean my wounds, because I know this is a long journey. It's not going to happen miraculously like that. It could, but it wants me in this journey. And that's the important thing. So we can be transformed leaders who transform a home, a community, and a nation.